Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss Agentic AI and its impact on the IT sector. If you are from the investing or IT industry and seeing obituaries like these every day, or tuning into 24/7 newsroom debates on why the future of white collar and IT jobs is so bleak, the anxiety level right now would be certainly high. Our agenda today is to cut the clutter and present a data driven perspective of how AI cycle may play out and what the repercussions would be for IT industry and job market. First things first, what is agentic AI and why is there so much of media sensationalization about it now? In simple terms, agentic AI is AI that not only assists you, it can act for you. Gen AI assistants like ChatGPT or Gemini just give you suggestions and wait for you to do the task yourself. Agentic AI, on the other hand, is a further evolved version of AI that can plan a task, make decisions, and complete multi step actions autonomously on your behalf. Assume you are ordering vegetables, milk, and bread on Blinkit every day morning. From the time you are landing on Blinkit's homepage till the time you are authorizing the transaction, you might currently be navigating through 5 or 6 different steps or app pages if you have to purchase these 3 items. Instead, if Blinkit deploys an intelligent AI agent in their app going forward, it cuts the sequence of the 5 steps to just a simple prompt in the chat, thereby saving you time. These agents can be similarly extended to various other daily workflows, both at personal and enterprise level, like making travel bookings, writing software code, sending email reminders, so on and so forth. In the beginning of February 2026, Anthropic launched the latest update of its LLM, Cloud Opus 4.6, introducing agent teams and vertical plugins, spooking the global markets about the potential spike in white collar unemployment, especially in sectors like software, IT, web aggregators, legal, wealth managers, insurance, brokers, etc. It is estimated that AI agents market will grow at 45% CAGR until 2035 to reach 15 billion agents. How can AI change the existing technology paradigm? At Kotak Mahindra AMC, we expect a fundamental shift in the computing paradigm, courtesy AI. In the current computing paradigm, hardware layer is centered around CPU. We expect this to evolve into a GPU or a TPU anchored hardware layer. GPU and TPU stand for Graphics Processing Unit and Tensor Processing Unit, respectively. We expect the large language models like GPT or Gemini or post training layers to somewhat take the shape of operating systems of today. Contrary to popular perception, we expect the services layer to continue with possibly a much larger opportunity. And the rationale for larger opportunity is the need to re-engineer the applications and workflows of today into some form of AI agents. This is a big structural shift and could possibly play out over multiple decades, contrary to predictions of a massive change over next 1 to 2 years. Market people often tend to overestimate the impact of technology in the short term and underestimate its impact over the long term. A case in point is the adoption of e-commerce. Remember the euphoria about internet and e-commerce before the dot-com crisis. More than a quarter century later, e-commerce as percentage of retail sales in US account for a meager 16%. Like we are seeing the narrative of SaaS and services are dead over the last few months, or Google is dead because of ChatGPT a couple of years ago, early 1990s was ripe with the narrative of IBM mainframe is dead. It'll be surprising to note that even in 2026, 86% of world's top banks and 80% of top payment companies still rely on mainframes as their core computing platform. What could be the relevance of services companies? Consumers or startups switching from one technology to another, from a Google to ChatGPT, for example, is like applying brakes on a bicycle and restarting. It can happen very quickly, easily, and at near zero marginal cost. But a large enterprise migrating from one technology like SAP to another is analogous to an Airbus 380 landing and taking off again. By design, it is slow and time consuming so as to not crash the daily business operations, which are deeply integrated with these softwares. And services companies are like the air traffic control and ground crew who handhold the entire process of descent, touchdown, taxiing, and eventually taking off again. In this technology transition, the role of services companies becomes even more important as the underlying computing paradigm is changing from a deterministic one to a probabilistic one, which means, if not integrated correctly, the scope for erroneous output is much higher, unlike in case of traditional software. A September 2025 research paper by OpenAI alludes to the fact that when faced with uncertainty, LLMs often resort to overconfident guesswork rather than admitting to uncertainty. This phenomena, referred to as hallucinations, is a feature and not a bug in LLMs, according to the OpenAI researchers. A research paper by Apple titled The Illusion of Thinking alludes to the fact that frontier models face a complete accuracy collapse when faced with queries beyond certain complexities. Enterprise grade technology has hardly any tolerance for these hallucinations or errors. It is where IT companies get higher scope of work in form of more and more customization, building RAGs to reduce hallucinations, or building small language models which have better context of enterprise. As per NASSCOM McKinsey research, AI services opportunity is estimated to be in the range of $300 to $400 billion by 2030. Contrary to current consensus fears, Gartner actually projects the share of services to expand from 30.2% in 2025 to 32.5% of overall tech spends in 2028. We expect key incremental opportunities for IT companies in areas like data center upgrades, applications to AI agents reengineering, cloud and data migration, cybersecurity, etc. What about the deflation in revenue due to AI-led productivity? Historically, technology has always led to productivity gains and it has always been deflationary when you consider everything else as constant. But the basic flaw with this argument is that in a real world, everything else is not constant. Take the case of a new iPhone launch. When iPhone 17 is launched, the price of iPhone 16 typically drops by 25 to 30%. But can we then conclude that overall company level iPhone revenue will decline due to this deflation? Answer is no. When the price of previous technology, that is iPhone 16 in this case, deflates, the latent demand for the product increases. We then have to account for the spike in demand for iPhone 16 coupled with a mix shift towards iPhone 17 to arrive at sales growth forecast at an overall company level. But the ceteris paribus analysis usually does not account for this variable change. In fact, this is a very interesting concept in economics called Jevons paradox. In 1865, economist William Jevons noted that despite the steam engines becoming more coal efficient, total coal consumption in Britain has surged. Reason being, cheaper power led to many more uses of steam engines across industries. From steam engine to ERP to cloud implementation, we have always seen Jevons paradox playing out whenever technology made a resource more efficient to use. We expect a similar outcome in the case of AI as well. When the unit cost of intelligence falls sharply, the number of technology applications and use cases that enterprises and people consume should increase exponentially. In essence, despite the productivity led deflation, we expect AI to be a big net new opportunity for services companies. Right now, we are seeing a massive investment wave in the underlying hardware infrastructure, especially in semicon companies. Given that IT services companies are downstream participants in the technology value chain, we expect the benefits for them to flow through with a time lag of an year or so. Can IT companies pivot away from a labor arbitrage model in the AI world? It is one of the biggest and long held myths that Indian IT companies are only into cost or labor arbitrage. Many of you may be surprised to know that product engineering for cutting edge products like Gemini Enterprise or Microsoft Azure or Meta Smart Glasses are actually done by some Indian IT companies. One Indian IT company developed a large language model in vernacular languages, which is technologically more challenging than English LLMs. Most of the IT companies started talking about and offering agentic AI products and platforms for the last year and a half, while agentic AI became a global sensation only after the release of Claude Opus 4.6 in February 26. In September 25 quarterly earnings call itself, Infosys mentioned they were already delivering 200 plus agentic AI projects for their clients. Anthropic recently announced a go-to-market partnership with Infosys. And Dario Amodei, CEO of Anthropic, actually goes on to say there is a big gap between an AI model that works in a lab demo and one that works in a regulated industry. If you want to close the gap and scale up the usability of AI in enterprise use cases, you need domain expertise and contextual understanding of companies like Infosys. Nearly 55 to 60% of IT industry's revenue now comes from outcome based or fixed price contracts where IT companies take end to end responsibility for delivering a certain business outcome for the client. These projects have no connection with the headcount whatsoever. Despite industry's constant push away from the headcount based billing, it still remains 40 to 45% of industry's revenue because clients in certain industries find this billing model giving them more flexibility, especially when they are not clear about scope and timelines of the project. Could there be massive job cuts because AI can now do a lot of coding? Historically, every technology change cycle always started off with fear mongering about potential job losses. Take the case of assembly line introduction in factories, computerization of banks, ERP upgrade cycle, and as recently as robotic process automation. It is a big myth that software engineering job is only about coding and nothing else. In fact, you'll be surprised to know that coders spend just about 16% of their daily time on coding. Remaining time is spent on activities like requirement gathering, coordination with multiple stakeholders, user experience, and deployment, etc. Code has, anyways, been mostly a commodity, and even before the arrival of AI into picture, there were tools like code libraries, open source, crowdsourced coding platforms like GitHub, Topcoder, and Stack Overflow, etc., from where coders often used to fetch the code. There were low code and no code platforms which made their coding job even more simpler. Gen AI and API integrations with Cloud Code, etc., will definitely make code writing much more easier and productive. However, one needs to keep in mind this reduction in code generation time is actually a trade off against increased time and effort on code compilation and debugging. So, statements like 70% or 90% of the code being written by AI conveys only one half of the story. Many companies like Klarna, Salesforce, and IBM, etc., which were once very strong proponents of AI driven layoffs have now taken a complete U turn. Both Klarna and Salesforce now say they regret excessive reliance on AI and laying off employees, which eventually resulted in customer backlash. AI tools are already widely adopted by close to 80% of developers. However, it is not necessarily reflecting in the form of lower utilizations or massive layoffs from IT companies yet. In fact, the software development job postings on portals like Indeed have only seen a strong increase over the last 5 months. Interestingly, a joint research by ICRIER and OpenAI concludes that occupations with perceivedly higher AI exposure, like software developers, statisticians, and mathematicians, are actually seeing demand expansion rather than contraction. Contrary to prevailing wisdom, they also find that business functions most affected by AI are also those experiencing the least job displacement. As investors, we can also relate to this paradox in case of BPO companies. While BPO as a subsegment was expected to be the first and most impacted due to AI, at least for the last 12 to 18 months, BPO segment had actually seen better growth rate than even IT services. AI as a technology is as good as the quality and quantity of data being fed into it. The more often we use it and give feedback, it keeps getting better because of the self learning mechanism. This is why AI LLMs keep getting better at many standardized, general purpose, and greenfield use cases like summarization, writing, making a web page, etc., given a gigantic set of users are using providing the data and feedback loop. This is also the fundamental reason why we think it is difficult for AI to displace IT employees at scale, even over the long term. Because a substantial part of IT landscape is about custom built applications, complex brownfield integrations, and contextual knowledge of the enterprise client, limiting the amount of data and thereby constraining the model learning process. Governance, control, security, and cost dynamics are other critical bottlenecks constraining enterprise AI adoption. In the end, we would like to conclude by saying there is a big data disconnect between the headline media AI narrative and on ground reality of AI adoption. And it may continue for some more time given that many AI companies are looking forward to big fundraising rounds going ahead. However, if we discount the narrative and rely purely on the logic of technology, the terminal value of IT companies only seem to be getting stronger due to AI. Thank you.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.